is Jessica Sander, and I'm going to talk about socioeconomic status and the disappearing middle class phenomenon and how these are impacting the career counseling process. So according to the American Psychological Association, socioeconomic status is commonly conceptualized as someone's social standing or their class. So it's most often measured as a combination of their education, their income, and their occupation. So as you can tell, there's no real formula for calculating a socioeconomic status. You can't just plug in variables and kind of determine what an individual's socioeconomic status would be. So there is a little bit of flexibility and variance as to where people may fall in terms of their socioeconomic status. When we talk about people who have a low socioeconomic status, or SES, we're typically talking about individuals who are at or near poverty, very low income, low educational attainment, may or may not be working. And typically these individuals or families are facing some great inequalities. Inequalities in healthcare, access to resources, housing, wages, just a variety of things that they are either facing obstacles to or inequalities because of their socioeconomic status. Now, unfortunately, in the United States, low socioeconomic status is really closely intertwined with race and ethnicity. And because of this, we see a lot of minorities, a disproportionate amount of minorities with a low SES. Now, when I was doing some research for this project, I found a wide variety of facts and figures. I wrote down a few to share because some of them really stood out to me and just kind of highlight the inequalities that many minorities face in the United States if they do fall into that low SES category. So in the U.S., minorities are about 3 times more likely to live in poverty than Caucasians. So you can tell right away that there's a great disparity there. Minorities are more often likely to receive higher cost mortgages. They're going to receive higher interest rates on things like loans or credit cards. So again, they're being unfairly treated in terms of their their financial abilities. And when it comes to career, one specific fact that I found was that blacks in the United States have double the unemployment rate as whites. And that's not just in rough economic times. It's pretty consistent whether we're in a booming economy or a receding economy. In addition to that, blacks receive about 15 to 28% less earnings than their white counterparts. So even those individuals who are employed and do have a job, they're receiving less for their work. So again, another inequality that is just one of those things that minorities are facing that the white majority doesn't necessarily have to face, even if they are of low SES. So very closely related to socioeconomic status is the idea of classes. Now, the United States is not officially a class society. However, we do kind of have 3 unofficial classes that our citizens typically fall into. One is going to be the lower class, kind of poverty level, very low income. Then we have a very vast, very large middle class, and then a very, very tiny upper class, or rich. Now again, there are no official determinants of how individuals are categorized into these classes. There's no consensus among economists, sociologists, or there are no income cutoffs, or income levels that you have to reach to bump yourself up to the next class. So again, there's a lot of flexibility there. When we look specifically at the middle class, though, we're typically categorizing that as kind of the American dream. Either owning a home, having a steady job, having children, having some level of educational attainment. So those kind of variables are what we kind of consider to be middle class. Now, middle class individuals and families have a wide income range. Some experts have said anywhere from about $25,000 annually to 20 or 30 times that. So you can see that the middle class is huge. The majority of Americans fall into the middle class. And because of that, many researchers and experts have actually divided the middle class into its own 3 distinct sections. So kind of the lower middle class, which would be closer to that $25,000 range. Then there's the comfortable middle class, and then the upper middle class. Now, when you think of a class that's so huge, where the majority of Americans fall into the middle class, could it really truly be disappearing? Well, many experts and researchers say yes. And the reason for this is because many jobs that have been cut from the public and private sectors recently have been those jobs that have been filled by middle class citizens. Now these cuts have affected both blue collar workers and white collar workers. For example, new technologies have come in that have eliminated the need for several skilled workers on machinery, they've automated processes, they have eliminated, for cost-cutting purposes, they pay up front a big fee for technology, but over the long run they can eliminate several employees. On the white collar side, a lot of clerical and managerial positions have been cut. So, whereas 3-4 decades ago, a family could survive with a single earner who had a high school diploma and one steady job, and they could do just fine. Nowadays, we have a lot of families who are college-educated, 2-earner families who are still struggling to keep their family afloat. So it's interesting to see that this disappearing middle-class phenomenon is affecting many different individuals within the middle class. And nowadays, a college education doesn't necessarily keep you safe from being affected by these job cuts that we're seeing now. Now, there are several ways that career counselors can help. And when we're working with individuals from a lower SES or those who are experiencing difficulties or feeling the effects of the disappearing middle class, there's several things to keep in mind. First of all, it's really important to understand how an individual from a lower SES views their sense of control over their situation. Do they feel they have control over their destiny, or that their destiny is happening to them? Understanding where they are and where their thought level is on this can really impact what they need and what they're expecting from the career counseling process. So this would be a really good thing to gauge from early on, so you can more effectively work with the client. Another important factor when working with these individuals is to understand how much freedom they feel they have when making choices. Many individuals from lower SES may not have as much freedom as others. They may be experiencing restrictions based on their environment, based on societal factors, obstacles that they're facing in their communities, and they also may be facing restrictions to their freedom of choice from family obligations, or maybe they have some self-imposed restrictions that they're dealing with. So working with your client to figure out where they feel they have, how much freedom they feel they have when making choices, again, will really help you increase your effectiveness when working with them. Some more specific skills that can really help benefit this group is just helping them understand themselves better. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are their aspirations, their goals? How do they work with other people? What's their interpersonal style? Many times, not just individuals from lower SES, but many individuals just don't understand those things, haven't really thought about them, haven't identified those factors. So helping this group identify those can really help shape their career development process and help give them a little more direction when they're looking to move it further or change up their career. If you're working specifically with adolescents, maybe in a school setting or in a community setting, it can be really helpful to go through the process of decision making, goal setting, setting steps for achieving goals, and then evaluating those goals. A lot of times these are things that aren't taught in school, maybe aren't discussed at home, and especially when we have students from a lower SES, these types of things are it's been shown in the research that they need extra attention to skills such as those to help in their career development process. So focusing on those with adolescents can be helpful. And above all, it's always really important for a counselor in any situation to be an advocate for their clients. So advocating for not only environmental changes, but also changes within the individual. A lot of times you're going to receive clients who don't know where to go. They don't know how to access resources, or maybe they've tried and hit roadblocks. And as the counselor, you can advocate for that client. You can provide access to resources. It's really important to stay up to date on current trends, to know where they can go for job training, to go for career opportunities, to go to skill building exercises. You can really be kind of their one-stop shop when they come in. So it's just really important to always be advocating for change to help, some of these larger scale changes that, one individual, could never take on their own, but to have the backing of your expertise that can really help in giving a voice to that client. So overall, just understanding these factors and how they impact our clients, the lower SES, this phenomenon of the disappearing middle class, understanding how that impacts a client's life can really increase the effectiveness of the career counseling process and the client's career development process overall. Thank you.